Montana. 3 in the morning. The kind of cold that makes your bones ache. Jack Reeves sat alone in the darkness of his cabin, a single lamp casting long shadows across walls lined with ghosts. 58 years old, gray beard that needed trim, hands scarred from wars he couldn't talk about, holding a rifle he had sworn never to use again. The weapon was clean, oiled, perfect, a habit from another life. Outside, wind screamed through the pines like the dead calling him back. His phone rang. Unknown number. Jack stared at it. 4 rings. 5. Nobody called at 3 a.m. with good news. He let it go to voicemail. Silence returned, thick as smoke. Then it rang again. Same number. He ignored it. 3rd time, his jaw tightened. 4th time, he answered. Reeves. The voice on the other end was female, young, shaking so hard the words barely came through. Commander Reeves, this is Dr. Sarah Brennan. I'm calling from I don't know where. They took children, 12 of them. One of them, she's 8 years old. She said her grandfather's name is Jack Reeves. She has your daughter's eyes. Her name is Maya. Jack's hand froze on the rifle stock. I don't have a granddaughter. She knows your voice from videos her mother showed her. Commander, they're going to sell her. 36 hours. That's what the man said. 36 hours and then she's gone forever. Static crackled. Breathing. Then the line went dead. Jack sat motionless in the lamplight, phone pressed to his ear like he could pull the voice back through sheer will. Maya, he'd never heard that name before. Never knew his daughter Jessica had a child. Never knew because Jessica told him 15 years ago to never contact her again. And he'd obeyed because that's what soldiers do when they fail the people they love. They follow orders, even when the orders destroy them. He set the rifle down with hands that didn't shake, pulled out his laptop, fingers moving across keys with muscle memory, older than the wars that created it. 30 seconds later, he had a name. Jessica Reeves, married at 23, divorced at 28, single mother in Phoenix, Arizona. 1 daughter, Maya Reeves, 8 years old. He found a photo on social media, protected but not protected enough. A woman and a little girl on a beach, smiling at the camera with the kind of joy that makes you believe the world might not be completely broken. The woman was his daughter, older now, beautiful in a way that made his chest tight. The little girl had Jessica's eyes, dark, bright, alive. His granddaughter. Jack closed the laptop, stared at the rifle. Then he stood, moved to the closet, and pulled out a duffel bag he'd hoped to bury with him. Inside were things from the life before, body armor, tactical knives, a suppressed Glock 19 he'd kept off the books, dog tags from men who'd died believing he'd bring them home. He started packing. The drive from Montana to San Diego took 14 hours. Jack didn't stop except for gas. Didn't eat, didn't sleep. Highway lights blurred past like tracer rounds, and somewhere around Nevada, the sun came up behind him, turning the desert gold. He barely noticed. His mind was in the kind of tactical mode that comes from 3 decades of operating in places where one mistake means you don't come home. Calculate, prioritize, execute. He pulled into San Diego just after 9 p.m., drove straight to a diner off the interstate where the neon sign flickered like a dying heart. Inside, the place smelled like coffee and grease and old regrets. He found the booth in the back, slid in, and waited. 10 minutes later, Marcus Hale walked through the door. 52 years old, former Marine, San Diego PD detective for the last 20 years. Gray at the temples, shoulders still broad, eyes that had seen enough death to fill a cemetery. He and Jack had served together in Iraq 2 decades ago, brothers in arms, until the day Jack made a call that got Marcus's spotter killed, and their brotherhood cracked down the middle like a frozen lake. Marcus slid into the booth across from him. For a long moment, neither man spoke. Didn't think you'd come, Marcus said finally. You said Maya's my blood. Marcus pulled a manila folder from his jacket, dropped it on the table. Jack opened it. Police reports, hospital records, crime scene photos that made his jaw tighten. Your daughter Jessica, Marcus said quietly. Married name was Morrison, went back to Reeves after divorce. Lives in Phoenix with Maya. Was visiting San Diego last week. Tourist district, wrong place, wrong time. Cartel hit a group outside a hotel. 12 people taken, 6 adults, 6 kids. Jessica fought back. Jack's eyes found the hospital photo. His daughter on a gurney, intubated, machines keeping her alive. Bullet wound to the chest. Critical condition. They shot her in front of Maya, Marcus continued. Left her for dead. Took the girl. UCSD Medical Center, ICU. She's been unconscious for 6 days. Woke up this morning for about 3 minutes. Asked for you, said your name. Then she coded again. Doctors say her organs are failing. They're giving her anywhere from 24 to 72 hours, depending on how her body responds. Could be days, could be hours. They don't know. Jack closed the folder, looked at Marcus with eyes that had gone flat and cold. Where's Maya? We don't know. FBI's got a task force, but they're moving slow. Politics. The cartel involved is Vega Syndicate, run by Carlos Vega, former Mexican Special Forces, went dark after his unit got disbanded for corruption. Now he specializes in high-value acquisitions, kidnaps people for ransom or auction, rich kids, politicians' families, anyone worth money. Auction, Jack repeated, voice like gravel. That's the rumor. Somewhere in San Diego, next 36 hours. We're trying to get intel, but Vega's careful. Uses encrypted comms, moves locations constantly. FBI thinks they can track him, but I don't trust them. Too many leaks. Too many people protecting their careers instead of saving kids. Jack opened the folder again, studied the crime scene photos. Professional, clean. The kind of operation that spoke to training, discipline, and someone who understood how to exploit weakness. Why'd you call me, Marcus? Because you're the best operator I've ever seen, and because this isn't just about Maya. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed Jack a message. It had come to the San Diego PD tip line 2 days ago. Anonymous, untraceable. The message read, "Tell Commander Reeves that Vega remembers Kandahar." Jack's blood went cold. Kandahar, Afghanistan, 12 years ago. A black ops mission that wasn't supposed to exist. Intel from a CIA handler named Shaw about a Taliban compound. No civilians, no Mexicans, just enemy combatants. Jack's Delta team went in hard and fast. Killed 3 men in the first room. Cleared the building. Found IDs in the pockets of the dead. Mexican military. They'd been there illegally, embedded with the cartel for reasons Jack never fully understood. The CIA handler, Agent Diane Shaw, had fed him bad intel, told him to classify it, bury it, never speak of it again. One of the men Jack killed was Sergeant Marcos Salinas. Jack tried to save him. Failed. The man died whispering in Spanish. "Tell my brother Carlos I'm sorry." "Carlos Vega, this is personal," Jack said quietly. "Yeah, and it gets worse." Marcus pulled up another file on his phone. One of the hostages they released yesterday, Senator's daughter, 19 years old. She said Vega separated the kids into 2 groups, standard merchandise and premium merchandise. Maya and 3 others are premium. He's holding them separate. She said Vega told his men that the little girl Maya was special bait. Jack's hands tightened on the folder. "He's using her to draw you out," Marcus said. "Probably figures you'll come for her. And when you do, he'll make you watch him destroy her. Revenge for his brother." "Then he's right. I'm here." Marcus leaned back, studied Jack's face. "You look like hell, brother." "I am hell. Point me at the target." "It's not that simple. FBI's got jurisdiction. Agent Shaw's running the task force." Jack's eyes went flat. "Shaw?" "Yeah, same Shaw from Kandahar. She's been tracking Vega for 6 months. Won't share intel with local PD. Says it's classified, national security, all the usual bullshit. I think she's dirty, Jack. I think she's playing both sides." "She is." "How do you know?" "Because she did it before. Kandahar wasn't a mistake. She fed me that intel knowing there were Mexicans inside. Wanted me to kill them so she could cover up whatever black site operation she was running. When I survived and started asking questions, she buried me. Got me discharged, made sure I'd never talk." Marcus whistled low. "And now she's running the rescue operation for your granddaughter." "No, she's running a trap for me, for Vega, maybe for both of us. Shaw doesn't do rescue, she does asset management." "So what's the play?" Jack stood, dropped 2 20s on the table. "First I see my daughter, then I find Maya. After that, I deal with Shaw." "In that order?" "In that order." They drove in silence to UCSD Medical Center. The ICU was on the 4th floor, sterile and humming with machines that breathed for people who couldn't breathe for themselves. Jack walked past the nurse's station without stopping, Marcus flashing his badge to smooth the way. Room 447, door half open. Inside, the sound of a ventilator, steady and mechanical. Jessica lay in the bed, pale as death, tubes running into her arms and throat. Monitors beeped her heartbeat, slow and weak. Jack stood in the doorway, frozen. He hadn't seen his daughter in 15 years. She'd been 17 the last time, screaming at him that he cared more about his missions than his family, that he was a ghost in their lives, that she never wanted to see him again. She'd been right. He moved to the bedside, lowered himself into the chair, and took her hand. It was cold. He held it carefully, like something precious he'd already broken once and couldn't afford to break again. "Jessica," he said quietly, "it's me. It's Dad." No response. Just the ventilator breathing for her, the monitors tracking a life barely holding on. "I'm sorry," he continued, voice rough. "For all of it. For choosing wrong, for not being there, for being the kind of father you deserve to forget." A nurse appeared at the doorway, young, tired. She glanced at Marcus, then at Jack. "Your family?" "I'm her father." The nurse nodded slowly. "She woke up this morning, first time in 6 days, said one word, your name." Then her heart stopped. "We got her back, but it took 4 minutes. The damage, I'm sorry, but you should prepare yourself. Her organs are shutting down. Could be 2 days, could be 2 hours. We're doing everything we can, but realistically, she doesn't have long." "How long?" "If I had to guess, she won't make it past tomorrow night. I'm sorry." Jack nodded. The nurse left. He sat there holding Jessica's hand, staring at the machines keeping her alive. And for the first time in 30 years, Jack Reeves felt something crack open inside his chest. On the bedside table, there was a framed photo. Jessica and Maya at the beach. The same photo he'd found online. Happy, whole, a life he'd never been part of. He picked it up, studied Maya's face. 8 years old, dark eyes, bright smile, alive. He set the photo down, leaned close to Jessica's ear, and whispered, "I'll bring her back. I promise, whatever it costs. I'll bring Maya home." Jessica's fingers twitched in his hand, just once, then nothing. Jack stood, kissed her forehead, and walked out of the room. Marcus was waiting in the hallway. "Where to now?" "We find Vega." They drove to Marcus's house in the suburbs, a modest 2-story with a basketball hoop in the driveway and newspapers piling up on the porch. Inside, the place had the hollow feel of a home where a family used to live. Divorce, Marcus had mentioned once. His wife took their son, Tommy, 3 years ago. Kid was 16 now, living with his mother in LA, barely spoke to Marcus anymore. Another casualty of men who chose the mission over the people who needed them. Marcus led Jack to a home office cluttered with case files and coffee cups. On the desk, a laptop was open, displaying surveillance footage from the kidnapping. Jack watched it once, twice, memorizing faces, movements, the tactical precision of the snatch team. Professional, military trained, Vega's signature. "FBI raided 2 locations yesterday based on anonymous tips," Marcus said, pulling up more files. "Found nothing. I think Vega's feeding them bad intel through a mole. Someone inside the task force is working for him. Shaw, maybe, or someone she controls." Marcus opened another file. "Here's what we know. Vega operates out of Tijuana but does business on both sides of the border. He's got political protection in Mexico and probably has contacts in U.S. law enforcement. The auction is rumored to be high level. Senators, judges, tech billionaires, people with money and secrets. Vega doesn't just sell kids, he sells leverage." Jack studied the surveillance footage again, freeze-framed on one guard's face. Ran it through facial recognition software Marcus had access to. 3 seconds later, a hit. Former Mexican Special Forces. Discharged same year as Vega. Known associate. "They're ghosts," Jack said. "Off the books. No official records. Vega recruited his old unit. Can you beat them?" Jack didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out his phone, scrolled through contacts he hadn't called in years, and dialed. The voice that answered was young, male, suspicious. "Who's this?" "This is Commander Reeves. I'm looking for Tommy Hale." Silence. Then cautiously, "How'd you get this number?" "Your father gave it to me. I need your help, Tommy." "My father can go to hell, and so can you." The line didn't disconnect. Jack waited. 10 seconds. 20. "What kind of help?" Tommy asked finally. "The kind that saves lives." "You're good with computers, right? Your dad says you're the best hacker he knows." "He said that?" "He did. I need you to track encrypted communications for a cartel operating in San Diego. If you can do it, I can find 12 missing kids, including my granddaughter. If you can't, they'll be sold to people who will make them disappear forever." Another silence, then, Where are you? Your father's house? I'll be there in 3 hours. The line went dead. Marcus stared at Jack. He hasn't spoken to me in 2 years. How'd you do that? Told him the truth. He wants to matter. Give him something that matters, and he'll come. And if he can't crack the encryption, then we do this the old-fashioned way. Which is? Jack pulled the Glock from his duffel, checked the magazine, chambered around. We make them come to us. Tommy Hale arrived at midnight, driving a beat-up Honda with bumper stickers for bands Marcus had never heard of. The kid was 16, tall and skinny, with long hair and eyes that looked too old for his face. He walked into the house without greeting his father, dropped a backpack full of equipment on the kitchen table, and stared at Jack. You're the Delta guy. Was. Dad talks about you, says you're the best operator he ever saw. Also says you got his spotter killed in Iraq. Marcus tensed. Jack didn't flinch. Both true. Your father tell you why. Said you followed bad intel instead of gut instinct. That's right. I trusted the wrong person, and a good man died. Been living with it for 20 years. Don't plan to make the same mistake twice. Tommy considered this, then nodded. What do you need? Vega's using encrypted satellite phones, military grade. I need you to intercept the communications, find out where he's holding the hostages. That's NSA-level encryption. I can't just... Yes, you can. I've read your file. You hacked the LA school district at 14, got into your mom's lawyer's emails at 15. You're not here because you can't do it. You're here because you're bored and angry and you want to prove you're worth something. Tommy's jaw tightened. You don't know me. I know men like you. I was you. Angry at the world because the world didn't make sense. Looking for a mission that mattered. This is it. 12 kids, Tommy. 6 of them under 10 years old. You cracked this, you saved them all. That's not nothing. For a long moment, Tommy just stared. Then he opened his backpack, pulled out a laptop bristling with external drives and antennas, and started typing. I'll need access to law enforcement databases, signal intelligence feeds, maybe NSA backdoors if I can find them. Marcus handed him a login card. San Diego PD credentials. Use mine. That's illegal. So is kidnapping children. Get to work. Tommy worked through the night. Jack stood by the window watching the street, calculating angles and approaches like he was back in the field. Marcus made coffee, nobody drank. At 4:30 a.m., Tommy sat back from his laptop and let out a long breath. Got something. Vega's network uses a relay system, bounces signals through 6 servers before reaching the destination. I managed to trace one call to a location 40 miles east of here. Desert, middle of nowhere. Satellite imagery shows a compound, 8 buildings, guards, vehicles. Jack leaned over the laptop, studied the satellite image. The compound was isolated, surrounded by scrubland and hills. One road in, one road out. Tactical nightmare for assault, perfect for defense. How many hostages? Can't tell from intercepts. But I caught part of a conversation. Spanish. One voice said something about moving the premium package to San Diego tonight. Another voice said, the old man will come for the girl. Jack's blood went cold. They know I'm here. How? Marcus asked. Because Shaw told them. She's been tracking me since I left Montana. Probably has my phone tapped, my truck flagged. She wants me in play. Wants Vega to see me coming. Then we called off. Regroup. No, we hit the compound tonight before they move the hostages. Jack, that's suicide. 8 guards minimum. Unknown hostiles inside, no backup. We'll be outnumbered 5-1. Jack pulled the tactical map up on the laptop, marked entry points, sight lines, cover positions. We don't need backup. We need surprise. 2 operators, suppressed weapons, night vision, in and out in 10 minutes. They won't know what hit them. Marcus stared at the map, then at Jack. You're serious. I've done worse with less. That was 20 years ago. The skills don't fade, only the will, and mine's back. Tommy looked between them. What about me? You stay here. Monitor their communications. If they change plans, you warn us. If we don't report in by 0600, you call the FBI and tell them where to find our bodies. That's a terrible plan. It's the only plan. They prepped for 2 hours. Body armor from Marcus's garage. Suppressed M4 rifles borrowed from a contact in Border Patrol who didn't ask questions. Night vision goggles, trauma kits. Jack moved through the checklist like he'd never left the teams, muscle memory clicking into place. Marcus watched him with something like awe. You really haven't lost a step, have you? I've lost everything that matters. All I've got left is this. They drove out to the compound at 0300, parked 2 miles away, and moved in on foot through the desert. The night was cold and clear, stars burning overhead like 1,000 eyes watching them fail. Jack took point, moving in absolute silence, reading the terrain the way some men read books. Marcus followed, keeping pace, the old rhythm coming back. Brotherhood, trust, the kind you only find in men who've bled together. They reached the perimeter at 0400, 8 guards, just like Tommy said, 4 on patrol, 4 static. Jack glassed them through night vision, marked positions, calculated firing solutions. Then he looked at Marcus and made the hand signals they'd used in Iraq. You take left, I take right. On my mark. Marcus nodded. 3, 2, 1. They moved like ghosts. Jack dropped the first guard with a suppressed double tap to the chest, caught the body before it hit the ground, dragged it into shadow. Marcus took the second guard the same way. No noise, no alarms. By the time they reached the compound's main building, 6 guards were down and the other 2 were starting to notice something was wrong. Jack let them notice, let them get on the radio, call for backup. Then he stepped into the open, raised his rifle, and put them both down before they could draw weapons. Marcus stacked on the door, Jack breached. They flowed into the building, clearing rooms with precision that came from 10,000 repetitions in a life before this one. Empty, empty, empty. Then voices, Spanish, panicked. Jack rounded the corner, found 4 more guards scrambling for weapons. He engaged without hesitation. 4 shots, 4 bodies. Marcus moved past him, checking the back rooms. Jack, here. Jack followed the voice to a basement door. Locked. Marcus kicked it open. Inside, they found 4 people huddled in darkness. 2 women, 2 children, hostages, terrified, alive. But not Maya, not Dr. Sarah Brennan. One of the women, maybe 30, stared at Jack with wide eyes. You're American? Where are the others, the premium hostages? They took them yesterday, separated them. I heard one of the guards say San Diego. Something about a yacht, that's all I know. Jack helped them up, moved them toward the exit. Marcus called Tommy on encrypted radio. We've got 4 hostages secure, but Maya's not here. Repeat, target is not on site. Tommy's voice crackled back. I'm tracking new comms. They just activated a signal in San Diego Harbor. Coordinates coming through. Jack got the hostages outside, flagged down Marcus. We need to move. They're relocating. What about these people? Tommy's calling Border Patrol. Anonymous tip. They'll be picked up in 20 minutes. Marcus hesitated. You know this is a trap, right? They want you at that yacht. I know. And you're going anyway. I'm going anyway. They drove back to San Diego as dawn broke over the desert, turning the sky the color of blood. Jack's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. The voice was small, young, scared. Grandpa? Jack nearly drove off the road. Maya? The doctor lady said if I was brave, you'd come. She said you were a hero. Are you coming, Grandpa? Jack's throat closed. Yes, sweetheart, I'm coming. They said they're going to sell me. I don't understand. Why would someone sell me? They won't, I promise. Where are you right now? I don't know. It's dark. There's water outside. I can hear waves. Is the doctor with you? She's here. She's hurt. One of the men hit her, but she said she's okay. You stay with her. Stay brave. I'll be there soon. Okay, Grandpa. I love you. The line went dead. Jack sat there, phone in his hand, staring at the road ahead. Marcus glanced over. That was her? Yeah. She called you Grandpa. You've never even met her. Jessica showed her videos, told her about me. God knows why. Because you're her father. And no matter how much we screw up, our kids want to believe we're heroes. Jack looked at Marcus, saw the pain there. Tommy, the son who wouldn't speak to him. Another casualty of men who chose the mission. This can't be how it ends, Marcus. I won't let Maya grow up thinking her grandfather died trying and failing. I won't let Jessica die knowing I couldn't save her daughter. Then we better not fail. They reached the harbor at 0600. Tommy had narrowed the location to a luxury yacht docked at the far end of the marina, registered to a shell company Vega controlled. 300 feet long, $10 million of floating fortress, security cameras, armed guards, escape routes by sea. Marcus parked 3 blocks away. They glassed the yacht from a coffee shop window, counting hostile. 6 visible guards, unknown number below deck. We can't assault that, Marcus said. Not in broad daylight, not without a team. We're not assaulting it, we're making them move. How? Jack pulled out his phone, dialed a number he hadn't called in 12 years. The voice that answered was female, cold, professional. Agent Shaw. Hello, Diane. Silence, then carefully, Commander Reeves, I was wondering when you'd call. You've been tracking me since Montana. Of course. You're a national security risk, dishonorably discharged Delta operator with PTSD and a vendetta. When you started moving toward an active FBI investigation, I had to know why. Maya's my granddaughter. I know. Congratulations. You have family you've never met who needs saving. How very heroic. Where is she? I don't know. Vega's moved her 3 times in 48 hours. But I'll find her. That's my job. Your job is covering your ass for Kandahar. You fed me bad intel 12 years ago, got Mexican soldiers killed, and now you're using my granddaughter as bait to clean up the mess. Shaw's voice went flat. You have no idea what you're talking about. Carlos Vega is Marcos Salinas' brother. You knew that when you sent me into that compound. You wanted me to kill them. Wanted the cartel to have a reason to hate American special operations so you could justify your black budget programs. I was just the trigger you pulled. You're paranoid, Jack, and you're going to get Maya killed if you keep interfering. Then stop me. Come arrest me. I'm at the San Diego Marina looking at Vega's yacht right now. Bring your team. Let's have this conversation in person. He hung up. Marcus stared at him. What the hell are you doing? Shaw will scramble a team, FBI, SWAT, maybe even HRT. They'll surround this marina in 30 minutes. Vega's smart. He'll see them coming and evacuate the yacht. When he moves Maya, we follow. And when he thinks he's safe, we take her. That's insane. It's the only move that forces his hand. He can't auction her if he's running from the FBI. Tommy's voice crackled over the radio. Guys, I'm tracking massive law enforcement movement. FBI, San Diego SWAT, Border Patrol. They're converging on your location, ETA 12 minutes. Jack grabbed his gear. Time to move. They relocated to a rooftop 4 blocks away with clear sightlines on the yacht. Jack set up a spotting scope, watched the guards below start to react. Radios. Panic. Within 8 minutes, Vega's men were loading gear into vehicles, preparing to evacuate. Shaw's voice boomed over a loudspeaker. This is the FBI. The yacht is surrounded. Release the hostages and surrender peacefully. No response. The guards kept loading. 2 black SUVs pulled up to the dock. Jack zoomed in, saw a small figure being carried out, wrapped in a blanket. Maya, unconscious or drugged. Behind her, a woman in a white coat, blood on her face. Dr. Sarah Brennan. They loaded them into the second SUV. Jack keyed the radio. Tommy, I need you tracking both vehicles. Do not lose them. On it. The SUVs pulled out as FBI agents moved in on foot. Vega's guards opened fire. Not to kill, just to slow them down. Covering fire while the assets escaped. Smart, professional. The SUVs split up. One went north, one went south. Which one? Marcus asked. Jack watched through the scope. The second SUV, heading south toward the border. That one, Maya's in the second vehicle. How do you know? Because Vega wants me to follow. He's running, but he's still playing the game. They got in Marcus's truck, pulled into traffic 3 cars behind the SUV. Tommy's voice guided them. They're heading for the border, Tijuana crossing. If they get into Mexico, we can't touch them. Jack checked his watch. 14 minutes to the border. Can you hack border security? Slow them down? I can try. Give me 2 minutes. Jack watched the SUV weave through traffic. Professional but not reckless. The driver knew what he was doing. Former military, like the others. This wasn't just a cartel. This was a team. Tommy came back on. Border systems locked up. Every lane's got a red flag alert. Suspicious vehicle. They'll have to stop. The SUV hit the border checkpoint, slowed. Guards approached. Jack could see the driver talking, probably flashing credentials, bribes, whatever Vega's people used to cross. But the guards weren't budging. The system was down. They had to wait. Jack and Marcus pulled up 6 cars back. Now what? Marcus asked. Now we wait for them to make a mistake. The SUV sat there for 4 minutes. 5. Then the back door opened. A man stepped out, looked around, and made a call. Jack read his lips through the scope. They're moving her. Different vehicle. 30 seconds later, a white panel van pulled up beside the SUV. 2 men transferred Maya and Sarah into the van. The SUV stayed put. Decoy. The van pulled out a line, drove away from the border, heading back into San Diego. They changed the play, Marcus said. Jack was already moving. Follow that van. They tailed it through surface streets, keeping distance. The van headed east, toward the desert. Tommy tracked it through traffic cameras. They're going back to the compound you hit earlier. No, they know we hit that. They're going somewhere new. 20 minutes later, The van turned off the highway onto a dirt road leading into the hills. Jack killed the headlights, followed at a distance. The van stopped at a massive estate built into the hillside. Walls, gates, security that made the yacht look amateur. "That's El Castillo," Tommy said. "Vega's primary residence. It's a fortress, Jack. 20 guards minimum. You can't get in there." Jack studied the estate through the scope. Walls 15 feet high, electrified fence, guard towers, dogs. This wasn't a cartel safe house. This was a military installation disguised as a home. His phone rang. "Unknown number," he answered. Carlos Vega's voice was smooth, educated, almost friendly. "Commander Reeves, welcome to my home. I've been expecting you." Jack said nothing. "You killed 8 of my men tonight," Vega continued. "Impressive for a man your age, but pointless. Your granddaughter is safe inside these walls, and you'll never reach her. I have 30 men. You have 1 tired detective and a boy with a laptop. The math doesn't work in your favor. Let her go, Vega. This is between you and me." "No, Commander. This is between you and your choices. 12 years ago, you killed my brother. Shot him in the face because a woman named Diane Shaw told you to. You followed orders. You always follow orders. And now your granddaughter pays the price. Your brother was embedded with a cartel illegally. He knew the risks. He was trying to expose Shaw's black site operation. He was a hero. You murdered him." Jack closed his eyes. "I didn't know. And that makes it better, that you killed an innocent man without bothering to ask questions?" "No, it doesn't." "Then you understand. I'm not going to kill Maya. I'm going to sell her to the worst person in that auction room. And you'll live knowing you failed her the same way you failed Marco, the same way you failed your daughter. You're very good at failing the people who need you, Commander." The line went dead. Marcus looked at Jack. "What now?" Jack stared at the fortress, calculating angles, approaches, odds. All bad. Tommy was right. This was impossible. 30 guards, fortified position, unknown layout, no intel, no backup. Suicide. He pulled out his phone, opened the photo of Jessica and Maya at the beach, studied his granddaughter's smile. 8 years old, innocent. Depending on a man she'd never met, a grandfather who'd spent her entire life being a ghost. This was his chance, maybe his last chance, to be the hero Maya thought he was, to save the one person in his family who still believed in him. "We go in," Jack said quietly. "Jack, that's insane." "I know. We'll die." "Probably." "Then why?" Jack looked at him. "Because I've been dead for 15 years. At least this way, I die for something that matters." Marcus stared at him for a long moment. Then he checked his rifle, chambered around. "Always wanted to go out like a warrior instead of a washed-up cop. Let's do it." Tommy's voice crackled over the radio. "Wait, I've got something. Shaw's task force just hit Vega's financial network. Froze his accounts. $4 million gone. He's panicking. I'm seeing encrypted traffic spike. He's changing plans." Jack leaned forward. "What kind of change?" "Moving the auction. Not El Castillo, somewhere else. He thinks there's a mole in his organization. He's going dark." "Where?" "Decrypting now. Give me 30 seconds." Jack waited, pulse steady, mind clear. This was the break. The one opening in every operation where chaos creates opportunity. Tommy came back on. "Got it. Tijuana, location called La Perla. Coordinates uploading now. It's a private club. High security, but not a fortress. Auction happens in 18 hours. Marcus pulled up the coordinates on his phone. "That's across the border. Mexican jurisdiction. FBI can't operate there." "Neither can we," Tommy added, officially. Jack looked at the fortress, then at the coordinates. Tijuana, neutral ground, away from Shaw's reach. Vega would feel safe there, confident, and confidence bred mistakes. "We're going to Tijuana," Jack said. "How? We can't just walk across with rifles." "No, but we can walk across as tourists. Gear comes later. Tommy, I need you to find us a weapons contact in Tijuana, someone who doesn't ask questions." "On it." Marcus started the truck. "This is the dumbest thing we've ever done." "Probably. Jessica would kill you if she knew." Jack looked at the photo again. "She already thinks I'm dead. Maybe it's time I proved her wrong." They drove back to San Diego as the sun rose over the ocean, turning the sky the color of fire. Jack's phone buzzed. Text message, unknown number. It was a photo. Maya sitting in a chair holding today's newspaper. Proof of life. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was alive. Unharmed. Below the photo, one line of text. 18 hours, Commander. Then she's gone forever. Jack deleted the message, closed his eyes, And for the first time in 15 years, he prayed to a God he wasn't sure existed anymore. Please, just let me save one person, just one. The truck rolled on through the dawn, carrying two old warriors toward a war they probably couldn't win. But they were going anyway, because some things matter more than survival. Some things matter more than everything. The safe house Marcus kept off the books was a one-bedroom apartment in National City, 15 minutes from the border. Peeling paint, bars on the windows. The kind of place where nobody asked questions and nobody remembered faces. Jack sat at the kitchen table cleaning weapons, while Marcus made coffee that tasted like motor oil and regret. Tommy arrived at 0700 with a laptop bag and news. Found your weapons contact in Tijuana. Guy named Ramos, former federale, went private after the cartels put a price on his head. He deals in clean guns, no serial numbers, no questions. Expensive, but reliable. Jack looked up from the disassembled Glock. How expensive? 10,000 cash for 2 rifles, sidearms, and ammunition. Another 5 for body armor and tactical gear. Marcus whistled. I don't have that kind of money. I do. Jack pulled a manila envelope from his duffel, counted out 15,000 in hundreds. Money he'd saved from a life with nothing to spend it on. Tell Ramos we'll meet him in 2 hours. Neutral location. He brings the gear, we bring the cash. Nobody gets cute. Tommy took the money, made the call, and within 3 minutes had the meet set up. A parking garage in Zona Centro. Public enough to discourage betrayal, private enough for discretion. Marcus poured the coffee nobody would drink and sat across from Jack. We need to talk about the elephant in the room. Which one? The part where we're 2 broken-down operators planning to assault a fortified auction full of cartel soldiers and high-value targets, with no backup, no jurisdiction, and no way out if things go sideways. Jack snapped the Glock back together, chambered around, cleared it. You getting cold feet? I'm getting realistic feet. We're not kids anymore, Jack. I'm 52. You're 58. We can't fight like we used to. No, we fight smarter. Against 30 hostiles? There's no smart play here. Jack set the weapon down, looked at Marcus with eyes that had seen too many men die and not enough men saved. I just came from the hospital. Talked to Jessica's doctor again. She's deteriorating faster than they thought. Her kidneys are failing, liver's shutting down. They're saying 12 hours now, maybe less. She might not make it through tonight. So here's my play. I get Maya out of that auction. I put her on a plane back to San Diego. I make sure she's there when Jessica wakes up. If she wakes up. And if I die doing it, at least Maya gets to tell her mother that her grandfather tried. Marcus stared into his coffee cup like it held answers. My son hasn't spoken to me in 2 years. You know why? Because I missed his birthday to work a double homicide. Missed his graduation to chase a lead that went nowhere. He told me I cared more about strangers than my own family. Same thing Jessica told you. We're a pair, aren't we? Yeah, a pair of fools who thought the mission mattered more than the people waiting for us to come home. Marcus looked up. But maybe that's why we're still here. Maybe men like us don't get to retire. We just keep fighting until there's nothing left to fight for. Or until we find something worth dying for. Maya. They sat in silence for a moment, 2 old warriors contemplating their last mission. Then Tommy came back from the bedroom where he'd been working, face pale. Guys, we've got a problem. Jack stood. What kind of problem? I've been monitoring Vega's communications. He just made a call to someone in the US. Someone with serious clearance. I ran voice analysis on the recipient. Tommy turned his laptop around. On the screen was a waveform analysis matched against a database of government officials. The match probability read 97%. The name made Jack's blood run cold. General Robert Hale, Deputy Director of Defense Intelligence. Marcus's uncle. Marcus went white. That's impossible. My uncle retired from active operations 5 years ago. He's a desk jockey in Washington. He's also the man who authorized the Kandahar mission, Jack said quietly. The one that got Vega's brother killed. Tommy pulled up the intercepted conversation. The audio was scratchy but clear enough. Vega's voice. The old man is moving. He'll be at the auction. General Hale's voice. Let him come. Reeves has been a problem for 12 years. Time to put him in the ground. Vega. And the FBI agent, Shaw? Hale. She'll do what she's told. Shaw knows what happens if she doesn't. The recording ended. Marcus stood so fast his chair fell over. My uncle set you up in Kandahar. He's working with Vega. He's going to let you walk into a trap and die. Jack's mind was already moving through the implications like a chess player seeing 10 moves ahead. Shaw wasn't acting alone. She never was. Hale's been running this operation from the start. The black site in Kandahar, the cartel connections, all of it. He needed a scapegoat for when it went wrong, so he used me. And now that I'm back asking questions, he needs me dead. Why keep the cartel connection active after Kandahar? Because Vega's useful. He knows where the bodies are buried, knows which politicians bought kids, which judges took bribes, which generals sold weapons to enemies. Hale's not trying to stop the auction. He's trying to control it. Get all his enemies in one room, document their crimes, then use it as leverage for the rest of their lives. Tommy pulled up another file. There's more. I hacked Vega's financial records. He's received wire transfers from DoD black budget accounts. 15 million over the past 6 years. Hale's been funding him. Marcus grabbed his phone. I'm calling this in, FBI, DOJ, somebody. No. Jack's voice was hard. The moment you make that call, Hale will know we're on to him. He'll scrub the evidence, kill Vega, and bury this so deep we'll never prove it. Maya becomes collateral damage. Then what's the play? We go to the auction, we get Maya, and we record everything. Every buyer, every transaction, every word Vega and Hale say. Then we burn them all. Marcus stared at him. You want to turn this into a sting operation. I want to make sure that when Maya asks what happened to the men who tried to sell her, I can tell her they're rotting in federal prison for the rest of their lives. Tommy was already typing. I can set you up with covert recording gear. Audio, video, wireless transmission. Everything you see and hear gets uploaded to a secure server in real time. If you die, the evidence lives on. Do it. They crossed into Tijuana at 0900 as tourists. Jeans, polo shirts, cameras around their necks like middle-aged Americans looking for cheap dental work and cheaper tequila. No weapons, no tactical gear. Just two old men shuffling through customs with passports that wouldn't raise flags. The city on the other side was a study in contrasts. Modern high-rises next to shanty towns. Mercedes driving past donkey carts. The smell of street tacos mixing with diesel exhaust. Jack had operated in worse places, but never with so much on the line. They met Ramos in the parking garage at 1000 hours. He was late 50s, gray mustache, eyes that had seen cartels rise and fall, and rise again. He arrived in a white panel van alone, which meant he was either very confident or very stupid. Jack figured confident. Ramos opened the back of the van. Inside were 2 HK-416 rifles, 4 Glock 19s, body armor, and enough ammunition to start a small war. 15,000, Ramos said in accented English. Cash. Jack handed over the envelope. Ramos counted it, nodded, and started to close the van. One more thing, Jack said. I need intel on La Perla. Security, layout, exits. Ramos paused. La Perla is not a place you walk into and walk out of, amigo. Vega owns that building, owns the police who patrol that block. You go in there, you don't come back. I'm going anyway. Ramos studied him for a long moment. Then he pulled out a folded piece of paper from his jacket, handed it over. Floor plan, 2 years old, but the structure hasn't changed. 3 floors. Auction happens on the 2nd floor. First floor is security checkpoint. 3rd floor is Vega's private office and escape route. Helicopter pad on the roof. Jack unfolded the plans, memorized them in 30 seconds. 2 stairwells, 1 elevator, kitchen access from the alley. Ballroom where the auction would take place. 60 feet by 40, with a stage and private viewing boxes along the walls. How many guards? 20 inside, another 10 outside, plus whatever security the buyers bring. You're looking at 40 hostiles minimum. Marcus muttered something that sounded like a prayer. Ramos wasn't done. The buyers start arriving at 1800. Auction begins at 2000. Vega always runs exactly on time. Merchandise is kept in holding rooms backstage until their turn. If your target is premium merchandise, she'll be brought out near the end. How do you know all this? Because I used to provide security for these events, before I realized what I was protecting. Ramos's face went hard. You get those children out. You do it with my blessing. But you won't make it out alive. Vega doesn't leave witnesses. I don't plan to leave him a choice. They loaded the gear into Marcus's truck, drove to a motel on the outskirts where Tommy had already checked in under a fake name. Room 12, peeling wallpaper and a view of a parking lot where dreams went to die. Jack laid out the weapons on the bed, checked each one with the methodical precision of a man who'd bet his life on equipment 1,000 times before. Tommy set up the recording gear. Lapel cameras disguised as buttons, audio transmitters built into watch bands, everything wireless, everything encrypted, everything uploading to 3 separate servers in real time. If you get killed, Tommy said, not looking up from his laptop, the footage automatically gets sent to every major news network and the Attorney General's office. Hale won't be able to bury it. Good. Marcus was quiet, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at his hands. Jack recognized that look. The pre-mission silence when a man confronts his own mortality and decides if he's okay with it. You don't have to come, Jack said. Marcus looked up. Yes, I do. This isn't your fight. The hell it isn't. You think I became a cop to push paper and kiss ass? I became a cop because I wanted to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that. Got buried in politics and pension plans and pretending the job mattered more than doing the job right. This is me remembering. You've got a son who needs you. I've got a son who thinks I'm a coward. Maybe if he hears I died trying to save kids from monsters, he'll remember I used to be something other than a disappointment. Jack crossed the room, put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. You were never a disappointment. You were the best man I ever served with. Then why'd you leave me behind in Iraq? The question hung in the air like smoke from a gun. Jack sat down beside him. You remember that extraction, the CIA asset we were pulling out? Remember? I lost my spotter because you prioritized the asset over covering our 6. The asset was a woman, 23 years old. She'd been feeding us intel on Al-Qaeda for 6 months. The enemy found out. When we got there, they'd already started torturing her. She had maybe an hour before she bled out. Your spotter, Davis, he was wounded but stable. I made the call. Save the asset first, come back for Davis. And by the time we came back, Davis was dead. Yeah, and I've carried that for 20 years. But here's what I never told you. The asset, her name was Amira. She gave us the intel that stopped a truck bomb in Baghdad 2 weeks later. Saved 300 lives. Davis died so 300 people could go home to their families. I don't know if that makes it right, but it makes it something. Marcus was quiet for a long time. You never said. It was classified, still is, but you deserve to know. Does it change anything? I don't know. Does it? Marcus stood, picked up one of the rifles, checked the action. Yeah, it means you've been making impossible choices your whole life, and you've been carrying them alone. Not anymore. They spent the afternoon planning. Tommy pulled up satellite imagery of La Perla, marked guard positions based on Ramos's intel, calculated sightlines and kill zones. Jack drew up the assault plan. Marcus would pose as security for one of the buyers, using fake credentials Tommy would forge. Jack would enter through the kitchen as a caterer. They'd link up inside, locate Maya, and extract through the alley exit during the chaos Jack planned to create. It was a terrible plan, too many variables, too many things that could go wrong, but it was the only plan they had. At 1700 hours, Jack's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Agent Shaw's voice was ice. You're in Tijuana. You're tracking my phone. I'm tracking everything about you, Jack. And I know what you're planning. You go into that auction, you're going to get Maya killed. Funny, I was going to say the same thing about you. I have a team in position. Federal agents, Mexican police we've paid off, tactical support. We're going to hit La Perla at 2100 right after the auction concludes. We'll arrest every buyer, seize all evidence, and rescue the hostages. Clean, professional, legal. And Vega will be taken into custody. You mean will be disappeared before he can testify about General Hale? Silence. Then carefully. I don't know what you think you know. I know Hale authorized Kandahar. I know he's been funding Vega for 6 years. I know you're his cleanup crew. And I know that the moment your team goes in, Vega's going to execute the hostages and destroy the evidence. That's the play, isn't it? Raid goes bad, everyone dies, and Hale's secrets die with them. Shaw's voice went cold. You have no proof. I will by tonight. I'm going to record everything. Every buyer, every transaction, every word you and Hale say. And when Maya's safe, I'm going to bury you both so deep you'll never see daylight again. Jack, listen to me. You're not thinking clearly. You're emotionally compromised. Your daughter's dying, your granddaughter's in danger, and you're making decisions based on trauma, not tactics. Stand down. Let us do our job. Your job is covering up war crimes. My job is saving my family. He hung up. Marcus looked at him. She's going to move up the timeline. Hit us before we're ready. I know, which means we go now. They geared up in silence, body armor under loose jackets, weapons concealed in equipment bags, recording gear active and transmitting. Jack caught his reflection in the bathroom mirror. 58 years old, gray in his beard, lines around his eyes from squinting through scopes in desert sun. He looked like what he was, a man who'd spent his whole life preparing for war and never figured out how to prepare for peace. Tommy handed him the final piece of gear, a small earpiece, nearly invisible. I'll be monitoring from here. Anything goes wrong, I'll try to warn you. But once you're inside, you're on your own. Vega's got signal jammers. I'll lose contact the moment you cross the threshold. Jack fitted the earpiece, tested it. Tommy's voice came through clear. Can you hear me? Loud and clear. Good. Now go save your granddaughter. And Jack, come back. My dad needs you. Jack looked at Marcus, saw the same determination he'd seen in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in a dozen firefights where they'd both decided dying together was better than living apart. Let's go to work. They drove to La Perla as the sun began its descent toward the Pacific, turning the sky the color of blood and gold. The building was downtown Tijuana, 3 stories of colonial architecture hiding modern security, cameras on every corner, guards in suits with earpieces and bulges under their jackets, black SUVs parked in a perimeter that said money and power and people who made problems disappear. Marcus parked 2 blocks away. They split up. Marcus headed for the front entrance with his forged credentials, playing the role of private security for a buyer who didn't exist. Jack circled to the alley behind the building, where kitchen staff were unloading supplies for the event. He fell in with a group of caterers, grabbed a box of champagne bottles, and walked through the service entrance like he belonged there. Nobody stopped him, nobody questioned. In Jack's experience, confidence was better camouflage than any disguise. The kitchen was chaos. Chefs screaming orders, waiters rushing, the smell of expensive food being prepared for people who bought children the way other people bought art. Jack set down the champagne, grabbed a waiter's jacket from a hook, and slipped it on. Now he was invisible, just another body serving the monsters. He moved through the kitchen to the service stairs, climbed to the 2nd floor, and stepped into a hallway lined with oil paintings and security cameras. The ballroom was at the end of the hall, doors closed, voices murmuring inside. Jack checked his watch. 19:30, 30 minutes until auction start. His earpiece crackled, Tommy's voice breaking up. Jack, contact. Marcus's buyer's arriving. Then static. The jammers had kicked in. Jack was alone. He found a storage closet, slipped inside, and waited. This was the part of operations he'd never gotten used to. The waiting, the silence before violence. He thought about Jessica in her hospital bed. Machines breathing for her, organs shutting down one by one. The doctors had said 12 hours. That was 7 hours ago. She might already be gone. Might die while he was here, hunting the men who destroyed her daughter's innocence. He'd never get to say goodbye. Never get to hear her forgive him, if she would have. But at least he could save Maya. At least he could give Jessica that much. The door opened. Jack's hand went to his concealed weapon, but it was just a waitress, young, maybe 20, looking for supplies. She saw him, froze. Lo siento. I didn't know anyone was in here. Jack put a finger to his lips, smiled like he belonged. Taking a break, long night ahead. She nodded, grabbed what she needed, left. Jack waited 2 more minutes, then stepped back into the hallway. Guests were filing into the ballroom now. Men in expensive suits, women in designer dresses, all wearing masks, the kind you see at fancy parties where nobody wants to be recognized. Jack counted 14 guests. Ramos's intel was good. The auction was about to begin. Jack slipped into the ballroom through the service entrance, staying along the wall where the lighting was dim. The room had been transformed into something out of a nightmare. Velvet chairs arranged in rows, a stage at the front with a podium and spotlight, private viewing boxes elevated along the sides, where the highest bidders could watch without being seen. And in those boxes, Jack saw them. The monsters. Senators he recognized from C-SPAN, a federal judge whose face had been on the news for a human trafficking case she'd dismissed, a tech billionaire who'd made his fortune on social media apps used to groom children. All of them here, all of them waiting to buy innocence. Carlos Vega stepped onto the stage. He was younger than Jack expected, mid-40s, handsome in the way men are when they've never had to worry about consequences. Tailored suit, gold watch, smile that belonged on a corporate executive, not a man who sold children. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vega began, voice smooth and cultured, "welcome. Tonight we gather for an event that requires discretion, taste, and substantial financial resources. What you are about to see is not available through conventional channels. These acquisitions have been curated specifically for buyers of your caliber." Jack's recording gear was capturing every word. Vega continued, "We'll begin with our standard offerings. As always, transactions are final, delivery is immediate, and discretion is guaranteed. My organization has served clients at your level for over a decade without a single compromise. You can bid with confidence." The first child was brought onto the stage. A boy, maybe 10 years old, terrified, crying. A handler gripped his shoulder, forcing him to stand under the spotlight while Vega read off details like he was selling a car. Age, origin, unique characteristics. Jack's hands tightened into fists. This was evil in its purest form. Not the chaotic violence of war, but the calculated cruelty of men who'd convinced themselves that money made anything permissible. The bidding started. Voices called out numbers. The boy sold for $80,000 to a man in the third row. He was led off stage, replaced by a girl, then another boy, then two more girls, each one a life destroyed, each one a family shattered. Jack counted, 6 children auctioned, 6 more to go. Then Vega paused, smiled. "And now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to our premium offerings. These acquisitions are special. They come with additional value beyond their primary purpose." A door opened backstage. 2 guards emerged, dragging a woman between them. Dr. Sarah Brennan. Her face was bruised, lips split, but her eyes were defiant. Vega gestured to her. "Dr. Sarah Brennan, former trauma surgeon currently working with Doctors Without Borders. She has information about several of my competitors, information certain governments would pay handsomely for. The winning bidder receives both the doctor and the intelligence she possesses." Sarah spat blood at Vega's feet. "Go to hell." He just smiled. "Bidding starts at 100,000. Jack was already moving. Screw the plan, screw tactics. He wasn't going to watch this. But before he could reach the stage, a hand grabbed his arm. Jack spun, ready to fight, and found himself face to face with Marcus. His friend was in a waiter's uniform, face grim. "Not yet," Marcus whispered. "Maya hasn't been brought out. We move now, we lose her." Jack forced himself to stop, to think. Marcus was right. Emotion got operators killed. He stepped back into the shadows, watched Sarah get sold to a man in the front row for $250,000. Watched her get dragged off stage, fighting every step. Then Vega raised his hand for silence. "Our final offering tonight is unique. She represents not just an acquisition, but a message. Some of you know the story of Kandahar, an American military operation 12 years ago that resulted in the death of Mexican soldiers. My brother was one of those soldiers. Commander Jack Reeves killed him." Jack's blood ran cold. Vega smiled at the audience. "Commander Reeves is here tonight, in this room, watching, and he's about to see me sell his granddaughter to the lowest bidder." The audience murmured, confused. "Lowest bidder?" "You heard correctly. This auction will go in reverse. Whoever bids the lowest amount wins the girl. Because I want her to go to the worst person in this room, the one with the least money, the one with the darkest needs. Commander Reeves will know that his granddaughter's suffering is because of him." The door opened again. Maya was led onto the stage, 8 years old, wearing the same clothes from the photo Jack had seen. Clutching a stuffed rabbit to her chest, her eyes were red from crying, but she wasn't crying now. She was trying to be brave. Jack's heart shattered. Vega placed a hand on Maya's shoulder and she flinched. "Bidding starts at 1 million. Remember, lowest bid wins." Silence. Then a voice from the back. 500,000. Another voice. 200,000. A third. 50,000. They were competing to go lower, to prove who was the most depraved. Jack felt rage building in his chest like a bomb about to detonate. Marcus must have seen it on his face because he gripped Jack's arm hard enough to hurt. "Not yet. Wait for my signal." 10,000, someone called. 5,000. 1,000. Vega raised his hand, going once at 1,000, going twice. Jack pulled free from Marcus, stepped into the light, and raised his voice. $1. The room went silent. Every head turned. Vega's smile widened. "Commander Reeves, I was hoping you'd participate, but I'm afraid you're not an approved bidder. Security, please escort him out. 4 guards moved toward Jack. He didn't draw his weapon, didn't move, just stared at Vega with the kind of cold fury that made men rethink their choices. You want me, Vega? Here I am. Let the girl go. Take me instead. That's not how this works. Then let me tell you something you don't know. About Kandahar. About who really gave the orders that killed your brother. Vega's smile faltered. What are you talking about? You think I chose to go into that compound? You think I just decided to kill Mexican soldiers for fun? I was following orders from General Robert Hale, Deputy Director of Defense Intelligence. He's the one who authorized the mission. He's the one who told Agent Shaw to feed me bad intel about who was in that building. He knew your brother was there. He wanted him dead, because your brother was about to expose Hale's illegal black site operation. The room erupted in whispers. Vega's face went hard. You're lying. Am I? Then explain the wire transfers. $15 million over 6 years from DOD, black budget accounts to your cartel. Hale's been funding you, Vega, using you to do his dirty work. You think you're in control? You're a puppet, and the man pulling your strings is the same man who ordered your brother's death. Vega pulled out his phone, made a call, spoke rapid Spanish. His face went pale. He looked up at Jack with something like fear. How do you know this? Because I was the same kind of puppet, until I cut my own strings. Hale used me to kill your brother, then threw me away when I started asking questions. Now he's using you the same way. And when you're no longer useful, he'll cut your strings too. Vega stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed, a bitter, broken sound. So we're both his victims. How touching. But it doesn't change anything. Your granddaughter still gets sold. The auction continues. No, a new voice said. It doesn't. Agent Shaw stepped into the ballroom, flanked by 20 tactical operators in full gear. FBI, Mexican Federal Police, all armed, all aiming at the stage. Carlos Vega, you're under arrest. Everyone else in this room, hands where we can see them. This is a federal operation. Chaos erupted. Buyers scrambling for exits. Guards drawing weapons. Vega grabbed Maya, held her in front of him like a shield. Everyone stop or the girl dies. Shaw raised her hand and her team froze. She looked at Jack, and in that moment he saw it. The calculation, the cold math. She was going to let Vega kill Maya rather than risk her operation falling apart. Jack made his choice. He drew his concealed Glock, aimed not at Vega, but at the chandelier directly above the stage. Fired 3 times. The massive crystal fixture fell, 800 pounds of glass and metal crashing down. Vega dove left. Maya fell right. Jack lunged forward, grabbed her, rolled off the stage as bullets started flying. Marcus appeared beside him, returning fire, covering their retreat. They made it to the service exit as the ballroom turned into a war zone. Shaw's team engaging Vega's guards. Buyers running, screaming, blood. Jack carried Maya through the kitchen, down the service stairs, out into the alley where their truck waited. Marcus was right behind them, moving despite a bullet graze on his shoulder. They threw themselves into the truck. Marcus drove. Jack held Maya in the back seat, shielding her with his body as bullets punched through the rear window. You're okay, sweetheart. You're okay, I've got you. Maya was crying now, holding on to him with the kind of desperate strength only children have. I want my mommy. Jack's throat closed. I know, I'm taking you to her, I promise. They said they were going to sell me. I don't understand. Why would someone sell me? They won't, I promise. Where are you right now? The truck screamed through Tijuana streets. Marcus driving like a man possessed. Behind them, sirens, gunfire, the sound of an operation collapsing into chaos. They made it to the border crossing at 2200 hours. The line was backed up, but Marcus flashed his police credentials, shouted something about a medical emergency, and they were waved through. The American side. Safe. Almost. Jack pulled out his phone, called Tommy. Did you get it? All of it? Tommy's voice was shaking with adrenaline. Every second, every face, every transaction. It's already uploading to the news networks. Jack, you just exposed the biggest human trafficking ring in North America. What about Shaw, Hale? All on tape. Shaw trying to let Vega kill Maya. Hale's phone conversation with Vega. Everything. They're done. Jack closed his eyes, held Maya closer. Good. They drove straight to UCSD Medical Center. Jack carried Maya through the emergency entrance, ignoring the stares, the questions. He went straight to ICU to room 447. Jessica was still there, still breathing, still barely alive. But something had changed. The monitors were different, more urgent. A team of doctors surrounded her bed. A nurse stopped Jack at the door. "Sir, you can't—" "I'm her father. That's her daughter. We need to see her, now." The nurse looked at Maya, saw the terror in the child's eyes, and stepped aside. Jack set Maya down beside the bed, and the little girl reached out with small hands to touch her mother's face. "Mommy, it's me. It's Maya. Grandpa came, just like you said he would." Jessica's eyes fluttered open. Barely, just enough to see her daughter. Tears ran down her face. Her lips moved, forming words she couldn't speak. Her hand lifted, trembling, and touched Maya's hair. Jack leaned close. "I got her, Jessica. She's safe. I'm sorry it took me so long. I'm sorry for everything, but she's here. She's safe." Jessica's eyes found his. In them, Jack saw something he hadn't expected. Not anger, not blame. Forgiveness. Her hand moved from Maya's hair to Jack's face. She mouthed two words. "Thank you." The monitor started screaming. Doctors rushed in, pushing Jack and Maya back. Crash cart. Paddles. Voices shouting medical terms Jack didn't understand. He pulled Maya away, held her as they worked on Jessica, trying to bring her back from wherever she'd gone. But he knew. He'd seen enough death to recognize when it won. The lead doctor looked at him, shook his head. "I'm sorry, we did everything we could." Jessica Reeves died at 2345 hours, surrounded by strangers trying to save her, with her daughter crying in the hallway and her father holding her close. Jack didn't cry. He'd forgotten how. But something inside him broke in a way he knew would never heal. He'd saved Maya, but he'd lost Jessica. And no amount of tactical brilliance could change the fact that he'd spent his daughter's whole life choosing the mission over her, and now she was gone. The nurse who'd let them in came out, tears on her face. She held on as long as she could. She was waiting to see her daughter safe. She knew. Somehow she knew you'd bring her back. Maya looked up at Jack with those dark eyes. "Is Mommy in heaven?" "Yeah, sweetheart, she is." "Will she watch over us?" "Every day." "Then we have to be good, so she's proud." Jack pulled her close, this little girl who'd lost everything and still believed in goodness. "Yeah, we have to be good." Marcus found them in the waiting room an hour later. His shoulder was bandaged. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in one night. "Shaw's been arrested. So has General Hale. FBI is arresting buyers as we speak. Every major news network is running your footage. This is going to be the biggest scandal in a decade." "Good. Tommy wants to know if you're okay." "Tell him I'm alive. That's all I've got right now." Marcus sat beside him, and they didn't speak for a long time. Two old warriors who'd survived one more mission but lost pieces of themselves along the way. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. "What happens now?" Jack looked at Maya, sleeping against his chest, exhausted from crying. "Now I try to be the grandfather she deserves. Try to make up for being the father Jessica needed." "That's a tall order." "Yeah, but it's the only mission I've got left." They sat there as the night turned to morning, watching the sun come up through the hospital windows, turning the world gold and new. Outside, the story was breaking. News vans, reporters, the beginning of justice for crimes that had hidden in darkness too long. But inside, in that waiting room, it was just Jack and Maya and Marcus, three survivors of a war that never really ended. And somewhere, Jack hoped, Jessica was watching, proud that he'd finally chosen family over the mission, even if it was too late to save her, even if all he could save was the daughter she'd left behind. 6 months after Jessica's funeral, Jack Reeves stood in the kitchen of his Montana cabin making pancakes for a little girl who called him Grandpa. Maya sat at the table in pajamas covered with rabbits, swinging her legs and watching him work with the kind of intensity children have when they're trying to understand the world through the adults in it. She'd grown since San Diego, taller, stronger. The nightmares came less frequently now, though some nights Jack still heard her crying in the dark, calling for her mother. Those nights, he'd sit beside her bed until dawn, this old warrior who'd survived 30 years of combat but had no idea how to fight an 8-year-old's grief. "Grandpa, you're burning them." Jack looked down. She was right. The pancakes were smoking. He flipped them anyway, scraped off the worst of the char, and served them with enough syrup to hide the mistakes. "Sorry, sweetheart. Still learning." "It's okay. Mommy used to burn them too." She said it without crying, which was progress. In the first month, everything reminded her of Jessica. The smell of coffee, the sound of rain, the way sunlight came through windows in the morning. But children heal in ways old men can't, and Maya had started smiling again. Small smiles at first, careful, testing if joy was still allowed, but real. Jack sat across from her with his own plate, watching her eat, still amazed that this little person was his responsibility now. Legal guardian. The courts had approved it 3 months ago after extensive background checks, psych evaluations, and home visits that made Jack feel like he was being vetted for something more important than Delta Force. He was. Are we still going to the school today? Maya asked through a mouthful of pancake. Yeah. Meet your teacher, see your classroom, all that stuff. What if the other kids don't like me? They'll like you. You're smart and brave and kind. What's not to like? Grandpa, I'm the weird kid whose mom died and whose grandpa shoots people. Jack set down his fork. They'd had this conversation before in different forms. Maya knew what he'd done for a living, knew the basics of what happened in Tijuana. The child psychologist they'd been seeing said honesty was important, but so was age-appropriate context. The line between truth and trauma was thin. I was a soldier, Jack said carefully. I protected people who couldn't protect themselves. Sometimes that meant fighting bad guys, but I never shot anyone who didn't deserve it, and I never did it because I wanted to. I did it because it was necessary. Like saving me, like saving you. Maya pushed pancake around her plate, thinking. The kids at my old school in Phoenix, they thought soldiers were cool, like superheroes. Soldiers aren't superheroes, Maya. We're just people who made choices. Some good, some bad. The important thing is trying to make more good choices than bad ones. Have you? It was the kind of question that would have destroyed him 6 months ago. Now, sitting across from this little girl who was the only good thing he'd managed to create in a lifetime of destruction, he found an answer. I'm trying. Every day with you, I'm trying. She smiled at him, syrup on her chin, and Jack felt something shift in his chest. Purpose, not the kind that came from a mission briefing or a target package. The kind that came from knowing someone depended on you not just to keep them alive, but to help them become the person they were meant to be. The drive to town took 40 minutes through Montana wilderness. Maya pressed her nose against the window, watching deer and elk and the occasional bear. She'd adapted to cabin life faster than Jack expected, helped him chop wood, learned to identify animal tracks, asked 1,000 questions about everything from why the sky was blue to where people went when they died. Jack answered as best he could, though that last question still kept him up at night. The elementary school was small, 30 kids total, grades K through 6 all in one building. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone and strangers stood out. Jack had worried about that, about Maya being the new kid with the tragic backstory. But the principal, Mrs. Chen, had been understanding. We'll take care of her, Mr. Reeves, and we'll take care of you too. Raising a child alone isn't easy, especially one who's been through trauma. You need support as much as she does. They toured the classroom, met Maya's teacher, a young woman fresh out of college who seemed nervous around Jack until Maya took her hand and asked about the books on the shelf. Then the teacher relaxed, started talking about reading programs and math games and art projects, and Jack saw Maya's eyes light up. This was good. This was normal. This was the life Jessica would have wanted for her daughter. After the tour, Maya ran off to the playground with a few other kids who'd arrived early. Jack watched through the window, ready to intervene if anyone was cruel. But the children just absorbed her into their games like she'd always been there. The resilience of kids. The ability to accept and move on. He wished he had that. Mrs. Chen appeared beside him, following his gaze. She'll be fine, you know. Children are stronger than we give them credit for. I'm not worried about her. I'm worried about me screwing this up. You won't. You're here. You're trying. That's 90% of parenting. What's the other 10%? Love. And you clearly have that covered. Jack wasn't sure about that, but he nodded anyway. Love was complicated for men like him. He'd loved Jessica, but not enough to choose her over the mission. Loved his wife, but not enough to save their marriage. Loved the men under his command, but not enough to keep them all alive. Maybe love was something you learned by doing, like any other skill. God knows he'd failed at it enough times to have the experience. His phone buzzed. Text message from Marcus. News just broke. Shaw's trial starts next week. DOJ wants you to testify. Jack typed back. I'll be there. Another message. How's the munchkin? Starting school today. Terrified, but hiding it well. Like grandfather, like granddaughter. Tell her Uncle Marcus says hi. Jack smiled. Marcus had visited twice in San Diego, once with Tommy. The kid had gotten a job with a cybersecurity firm in LA, was making good money and talking to his father again. Small steps. Healing takes time, but it happens if you let it. Maya came running back inside, breathless and happy. Grandpa, there's a girl named Emma who has a rabbit just like mine. Can she come over sometime? Sure, sweetheart. We'll talk to her parents. And she wants to know if you're really a retired soldier and if you really rescued me from bad guys. Jack looked at Mrs. Chen, who shrugged sympathetically. Small towns, everyone knew everyone's business. Tell Emma yes to both questions, but also tell her that soldiers are regular people, not superheroes. Maya ran back outside to relay this information. Jack watched her go, this little piece of Jessica living and laughing and being a kid despite everything she'd lost. Maybe there was hope after all. The following week, Jack flew to Washington, D.C. for the trial. Marcus met him at the airport, looking older. The gray had spread from his temples through his whole beard. Lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 6 months ago. The cost of seeing too much, knowing too much, carrying too much. They shook hands like men do when they've bled together. No words needed. Tommy's here too, Marcus said. Wants to see you before you testify. They found him in a coffee shop near the courthouse, hunched over a laptop, looking more like a college student than the hacker who'd helped expose the biggest trafficking ring in North America. He stood when he saw Jack, and there was something different in his eyes. Respect, maybe, or recognition of shared trauma. Commander. Jack's fine. I'm not anyone's commander anymore. Tommy smiled, gestured to the laptop. I've been tracking the fallout. 17 more arrests in the past month. They're rolling up the whole network. Buyers, facilitators, corrupt officials. This thing goes deeper than we thought. It always does. Yeah, but we made a dent. That's something. They sat, ordered coffee, and for a while they just existed in that space where survivors gathered to remember they'd made it through. Marcus talked about retirement plans. Tommy talked about his job, about reconciling with his father, about learning that forgiveness was harder than hacking, but more important. Jack talked about Maya and found that talking about her came easier now. She starts 3rd grade next week, loves school, wants a dog. Marcus grinned. You going to get her one? Probably. I'm told that that's what grandparents do. Say yes to things parents would say no to. You're doing good, Jack. Jessica would be proud. The words hit harder than they should have. Jack looked into his coffee cup, seeing reflections of a daughter who'd never know he tried, who'd died thinking he cared more about strangers than family, who'd been right until the very end. I hope so, Jack said quietly. The trial started this next morning. Federal courthouse downtown, media circus outside, cameras everywhere, reporters shouting questions about justice and corruption and the children who'd been saved. Jack walked through the gauntlet with Marcus on one side and Tommy on the other, refusing to answer, refusing to engage. He was here to testify, not to perform. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Jack saw faces he recognized from the auction footage. The tech billionaire, handcuffed and orange jumpsuited. The federal judge, no longer on the bench but in the defendant's chair. The senator who'd voted on anti-trafficking legislation while buying children on the side. And in the front, behind the prosecution table, Agent Diane Shaw. She looked smaller than Jack remembered, diminished, the confidence stripped away, leaving just a middle-aged woman who'd made terrible choices and was about to pay for them. She didn't look at Jack when he entered, kept her eyes down, defeated before the trial even started. Jack took the stand, raised his right hand, swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Looked at the jury and saw regular people trying to understand how evil like this could exist in the world. He'd spent 30 years asking the same question. The prosecutor was a young woman from the DOJ, sharp and prepared. Her name was Catherine Mills. She'd spent 6 months building this case from the evidence Tommy recorded. Now she was going to use Jack's testimony to seal it shut. Commander Reeves, can you please state your relationship to the defendant, Diane Shaw? She was my CIA handler 12 years ago during a classified operation in Afghanistan. What was the nature of that operation? Objection, Shaw's lawyer said. Classified information. The judge looked at the prosecution. Mills nodded. Your Honor, the CIA has declassified the Kandahar operation for the purposes of this trial. The documents are in evidence as Exhibit 47. Overruled. Continue. Jack took a breath. This was it, the truth he'd buried for 12 years. Agent Shaw provided intel for a Delta Force operation targeting what she claimed was a Taliban compound in Kandahar. She told us there would be enemy combatants inside. No civilians, no Mexican nationals. We went in based on that intel. Found 3 men inside. killed all three during the breach. When we searched the bodies, we discovered they were Mexican military personnel. Sergeant Marcos Salinas was one of them. What did Agent Shaw tell you to do after you discovered this? She ordered me to classify the incident, bury it, told me the Mexicans were there illegally, embedded with cartels, and that their presence was not our problem. She said if I reported it up the chain, it would compromise her operation. Did you comply? Yes, to my shame, yes. I followed her orders, classified it, never spoke about it again until 6 months ago. Mills pulled up a document on the screen. This is a CIA memo dated 3 weeks before the Kandahar operation, written by Agent Shaw to General Robert Hale, then Commanding Officer of Special Operations Oversight. Can you read the highlighted section? Jack read it. His voice went flat. Target compound confirmed to contain Mexican military intelligence officer Marcos Salinas. Subject is preparing to testify before Congressional Committee regarding illegal CIA black site operations in Afghanistan. Recommend immediate termination of subject to prevent disclosure. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Shaw's lawyer objected. Mills waited for silence, then continued. Commander Reeves, based on this memo, what do you conclude? That Shaw knew Marcos Salinas was in that compound, knew he was about to expose illegal CIA operations, and used me to kill him. I was the weapon. She pulled the trigger. Did you know this at the time? No, I found out 6 months ago when my granddaughter was kidnapped by Marcos Salinas' brother, Carlos Vega. Vega wanted revenge for his brother's death, and Agent Shaw was still working with Vega, funding his cartel through General Hale, using the auction operation to blackmail high-value targets. Mills showed the jury the financial records. $15 million in wire transfers from DOD accounts to shell companies Vega controlled. Phone conversations between Shaw and Hale planning to let Jack die at the auction. Video footage of Shaw ordering her team to stand down while Vega held Maya hostage. By the time Jack stepped down from the stand, Shaw's lawyer looked like he knew it was over. Shaw's trial lasted 4 more days. Witnesses testified, rescued children told their stories. Tommy explained how he'd hacked the evidence. Marcus described the assault on La Perla. Dr. Sarah Brennan, still recovering from her injuries, described being sold like property, while FBI agents watched and did nothing. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 25 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. General Hale's court-martial was separate. Military tribunal, officers in dress uniforms sitting in judgment of one of their own. Jack testified there too, facing down the institution that had defined his life. Told them about Kandahar, about the Mexican soldiers killed on false intel, about 12 years of cover-ups and corruption, and using soldiers as disposable assets in political games. When it was over, the presiding officer thanked Jack for his service and his courage. Jack nodded but felt neither served nor courageous. He felt tired of fighting, tired of carrying secrets, tired of being the weapon someone else aimed. The tribunal found Hale guilty, dishonorable discharge, loss of pension and benefits, 30 years in military prison, justice, not perfect, not enough to undo the damage, but something. Jack flew back to Montana the next day. Maya met him at the cabin door, threw her arms around his waist, wouldn't let go. I missed you, Grandpa. I missed you too, sweetheart. Did you tell the truth in court? Every word. Good. Mommy always said telling the truth was important, even when it's hard. Jack carried her inside, where the social worker, Mrs. Patterson, was waiting. She'd stayed with Maya during the trial, standard protocol. She smiled when she saw them together. Everything go okay? Jack asked. Perfect. Maya showed me her school project, a drawing of her family. Mrs. Patterson held up the paper. Stick figures. One labeled Mom with angel wings and a big smile. One labeled Grandpa with what might have been a guayjin or might have been a walking stick, she wasn't sure. One labeled Maya holding both their hands. It's beautiful, Jack said, voice rough. Maya beamed. Teacher says we're doing family trees next. I'm going to put you and Mommy and Uncle Marcus and Tommy and Emma from school. That's a good tree. After Mrs. Patterson left, Jack made dinner. Spaghetti, one of the 5 meals he'd learned to cook without poisoning anyone. They ate together at the small kitchen table, and Maya talked about school and her friend Emma and the dog she wanted to name Thunder because he'd have to be big and brave. Jack listened to every word, memorizing this moment. This ordinary moment that 6 months ago would have seemed impossible. A little girl chattering about rabbits and friends and ice while her grandfather made spaghetti that was slightly overcooked but edible. Normal. This was what normal felt like. After dinner, they sat on the porch watching the sunset over the mountains. The air was cold, autumn turning to winter, and Jack had wrapped Maya in one of his old military blankets. She leaned against him, small and warm and alive. "Grandpa, can I ask you something?" "Anything. Do you think Mommy forgives you?" Jack's throat closed. Of all the questions, of all the moments. "I don't know, sweetheart. I hope so. I think she does. Because you saved me. And because you're trying to be good now." "I'm trying. That's what matters. Trying. That's what my therapist says. She says trying is the same as doing when you're learning something new. You're learning to be my grandpa, so trying is good enough." Jack pulled her closer, felt tears he didn't know he had left. "When did you get so smart?" "Mommy was smart. I got it from her." They sat in silence, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. Jack thought about Jessica, about the last time he'd seen her alive, unconscious in a hospital bed, her hand in his. About all the years before that when he'd chosen wrong over and over until choosing right was too late. But maybe it wasn't completely too late. Maybe saving Maya was enough. Maybe raising her, giving her the life Jessica wanted for her. Maybe that was the redemption he'd been looking for. "Grandpa?" "Yeah, I love you." 3 words. Simple. Honest. From a little girl who'd lost everything and still had enough heart left to love. Jack pulled her closer, this precious weight against his side, and felt something break open inside him. Not pain this time, something else. Something that felt almost like peace. "I love you too, Maya, more than anything." Thanksgiving came. Marcus and Tommy drove up from California with Tommy's girlfriend, a smart young woman who worked in software development and didn't seem intimidated by the fact that her boyfriend's father was a cop, or that his honorary uncle was a former Delta operator. They spent 3 days at the cabin, taught Maya to fish in the stream behind the house, told stories around the fire, laughed in the way people laugh when they've survived something terrible together and come out the other side. Maya was thriving. Jack could see it in the way she ran and played and asked questions without fear. The nightmares had faded to once or twice a week. She'd made friends at school, brought home drawings and gold stars and stories about kickball games and spelling bees. She was becoming herself again. Or maybe for the first time. The self she would have been if her mother hadn't been shot, if bad men hadn't tried to sell her, if the world had been kinder. On Thanksgiving night, after Maya was asleep, the 4 adults sat on the porch with whiskey in silence. Tommy spoke first. "I've been thinking about what we did, about the trial and the arrests and all of it, and I keep wondering if it mattered, if we actually changed anything, or if there are just more auctions happening right now that we don't know about." Jack understood the question. It was the same one he'd asked himself after every mission. Did it matter? Did any of it matter? "We saved 12 kids, Marcus said. That matters. But we didn't save all of them. There are thousands more out there." "Yeah, and we can't save them all, but we save the ones in front of us. That's all any of us can do. We can't carry the weight of every child who needs saving. We can only carry the ones we can reach." Jack raised his glass. "To Jessica, who taught me that choosing one person all the way is better than choosing everyone halfway." They drank. The whiskey burned. The stars watched. Tommy's girlfriend, Sarah, looked at Jack with curiosity. "Can I ask you something, Mr. Reeves?" "Jack's fine." "Jack, do you regret your military service after everything that happened with Kandahar and General Hale?" Jack thought about it. Really thought. "No, I regret the things I missed. The birthdays and graduations and ordinary moments with my daughter. I regret trusting the wrong people and following bad orders. But I don't regret serving. The world needs people willing to stand between the innocent and the predators. I just wish I'd figured out sooner that my own daughter was one of the innocent people who needed me to stand up for her. But you're doing that now with Maya." "Yeah, now I am." Marcus raised his glass. "To second chances. To second chances." They drank again. And in that moment, Jack felt the weight of 30 years start to lift. Not gone, never gone, but lighter. Bearable. Christmas came. Jack got Maya the dog she'd wanted. A German Shepherd puppy from a rescue shelter, all paws and enthusiasm and unconditional love. Maya named him Thunder. The dog was neither big nor brave yet, just clumsy and affectionate, but he had time to grow into his name. Maya grew too, taller, smarter, braver. She still had questions about her mother that Jack answered as honestly as he could. She still cried sometimes, missing Jessica in ways that would never completely heal. But she was learning that grief and joy could exist in the same heart, that remembering someone you lost didn't mean you couldn't be happy. On New Year's Eve, Jack and Maya stood outside in the snow, watching fireworks from the town below light up the mountain sky. Thunder sat between them, already protective of his girl, despite being only 8 weeks old. Grandpa, what's your New Year's resolution? To be the grandfather you deserve. You already are. Then to keep being him. What's yours? Maya thought about it, serious as always. To make mommy proud, and to help other kids who are scared like I was. Jack's heart clenched. What do you mean? At school, we talked about what we want to be when we grow up. I said I want to help kids who don't have families. Like you help me, not with guns, but like Mrs. Patterson does. The social worker, she helps kids find safe places. That's a good thing to want. Do you think mommy would be proud of that? She already is proud of you, sweetheart. I guarantee it. And that's a very good thing to want to be. Maya leaned against him, watching the fireworks bloom and fade. Do you think there's another little kid out there right now who needs saving? Like you saved me? Jack pulled her close. Probably. Why? Just wondering. If there is, I hope someone like you finds them. He kissed the top of her head. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. The fireworks continued. The year turned. In the distance, Jack's phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Almost. But something made him check. The message was simple. No words. Just a photo. A little girl, maybe 7, with dark hair and frightened eyes, holding a piece of paper with today's date. Below the photo, GPS coordinates, Phoenix, Arizona. Then a second message. 42 hours. Her name is Sophia. She has no one else. Jack stared at the phone, at the coordinates, at the little girl who looked so much like Maya had 6 months ago, scared, alone, waiting for someone to care enough to come. He looked at Maya, safe and warm and loved beside him. Looked at the life they'd built here in the mountains, the peace he'd found, the redemption he'd earned. Then he looked at the phone again. Marcus picked up on the second ring. Jack, Happy New Year. I need you to watch Maya for a few days. Silence, then understanding. Another one? Another one. Jack, you're not a soldier anymore. You're a grandfather. You've got responsibilities here. I know. And part of that responsibility is teaching Maya that when someone needs help, you help them. Even when it's hard. Even when it's dangerous, especially then. Marcus sighed. When do you leave? Tomorrow morning. Can you be here by 0600? I'll be there. But Jack, be careful. You're not 25 anymore. No, I'm better. I know what I'm fighting for now. He hung up. Looked at Maya. She was watching him with those dark, knowing eyes. You have to go help someone, don't you? Yeah, sweetheart. I do. Another little girl like me? Yeah. Maya hugged him tight. Then you have to go. Because nobody should be as scared as I was. And nobody should have to wait as long as I did for someone to come. Jack held her, this 8-year-old with wisdom beyond her years, and felt pride swell in his chest. This was what Jessica had wanted. Not a perfect father, not a fearless soldier, just a man who tried to do right, who chose family, who taught his daughter's daughter that love meant sacrifice. I'll be back in 4 days, promise. I know, you always keep your promises now. The next morning, Jack packed his gear. Not the full tactical loadout this time. He wasn't going to war. He was going to save one girl. That required different tools. A lawyer, money for bribes or ransoms, contacts in law enforcement. Maybe Marcus if things went sideways. But not an army. Just an old warrior who'd learned finally that saving one person completely mattered more than saving the world halfway. Maya stood on the porch with Thunder, watching him load the truck. She'd made him a drawing during the night while he slept. A stick figure labeled Grandpa with a cape, holding the hand of a smaller stick figure. Above it, in careful letters, Come home safe. Jack tucked it into his vest pocket, right over his heart. I love you, sweetheart. I love you too, Grandpa. Go be a hero. I'm not a hero. Yes, you are. You're my hero. Jack drove away from the cabin as the sun rose over the mountains, turning the snow gold and clean. In his rearview mirror, he watched Maya waving until she disappeared from view. Then he turned his eyes to the road ahead. Phoenix, 42 hours. A little girl named Sophia who had no one else. He'd failed Jessica, spent 30 years choosing missions over family. But he'd saved Maya, and he'd learned finally that saving one person all the way mattered more than saving the world halfway. So he drove south, not as a soldier, not as an operator, as a grandfather who understood that the mission and the family weren't separate things. They never had been. The mission was family. Every child was someone's family, And every family deserves someone who would come for them. Somewhere in heaven, Jack hoped Jessica was watching. Hoped she saw him choose right this time. Hoped she knew that her death hadn't been meaningless. That it had taught him what mattered. And somewhere in Phoenix, a little girl named Sophia was waiting. Jack was coming, not as Commander Reeves, not as the last operator, just as a man who'd learned, finally, how to be the hero someone needed. The road stretched ahead. The mission waited. And for the first time in 30 years, Jack Reeves drove toward danger with peace in his heart. Because this time he knew what he was fighting for. Not orders, not country, not redemption, family. Every child was someone's family. And every family deserved someone who would come for them, even if it took 30 years to figure that out. Even if it cost everything. Especially then. The end. Or maybe just the beginning. Hey folks, thanks for watching Jack's story. I spent months researching Delta Force protocols and human trafficking cases to make this as authentic as possible. The hardest part? Writing Jessica's death scene. As a father myself, that hit different. Question for you veterans and dads out there. If you were Jack at 58, would you have gone into that auction alone knowing you might not come back? Or would you have trusted the FBI to handle it? Drop your thoughts below. And if this story moved you, there are more like it coming. Hit subscribe so you don't miss them. Next up, a Navy SEAL father racing against time in the Alaskan wilderness.